when you're consistently pursuing a narrative about the far right, you have to write a lot of different articles, you know, just to keep the interest going. I mean, you could talk about what they eat for breakfast, you know, their favorite films, what musicals they like, you know, because you got to have something to talk about, haven't you? Just to keep the narrative going. It's just simple, isn't it? And in here you have, why does the far right love Fred Perry? Mainstream fashion is its new camouflage. Right, okay, well, for starters, you're smearing a brand already by saying it's popular with one bunch of people. You know, aren't brands in general popular with a lot of people? You don't really see that kind of talk about, like, say, Nike hoodies or Adidas hoodies, which would be very popular amongst people who are in gangs. Do you know what I mean? I mean, Nike's one of the top brands, and you know, no one's going to be out there wanting to rock up in their Diodora tracksuit when they're going to do a bit of naughtiness. No, they're going to want to wear a Nike tracksuit, but I don't really see Nike getting dragged under the mud. Dragged into the mud the same way. Do excuse the banging and drilling. They're building a studio for me downstairs. No, they're not really. I'm in temporary accommodation in what I can only describe as the hood. And someone is obviously trying to cash in on renting out an Airbnb, as well, I can suppose that right below me now. So that's nice. Another problem with this article is that it's actually referencing the Proud Boys. Now, as far as I'm aware from research and just being, you know, a person that looks at stuff, I can only describe the Proud Boys as not really a far-right group. I mean, I've seen videos of their initiations when they have to name 5 breakfast cereals, or 4, and then they get a load of punches. The only thing you could really accuse them of is being, you know, maybe a bit silly, but to sort of lump them together with, say, Combat 18, KKK, I don't know, Aryan Brotherhood or whatever. No, they just do like to go around and fight Antifa, and then that's which is probably a pastime a lot of people are into. So there's already lots of problems with this article before I even go into it. But brands are facing unwanted endorsements from a younger generation of neo-Nazis attempting to normalise extreme ideas. Now the Proud Boys are neo-Nazis, so that's ramped right up from headline to sub-headline. So the Fred Perry brand found itself in the unwelcome spotlight this week when one of its brand ambassadors tweeted that he would no longer wear Fred Perry clothing in the US now that the self-described Western chauvinist Proud Boy group have adopted the black and yellow striped polo shirts as their unofficial uniform. I don't know, that this is just my guessing here, is that Proud Boys was started by Gavin McGuinness. Gavin McGuinness was like a punk rocker. He created Vice. Fred Perry, I think, has always been quite popular with that kind of subculture, isn't it? You know, it's kind of the same way. If you're going to label something a far-right group and say that this is popular amongst them, well, this kind of hairstyle, maybe a bit shorter, is popular amongst, you know, skinhead Nazis, you know, from America to Europe. So, you know, there's plenty of skinhead Nazis. Like, does that mean I'm just not going to have a skinhead because it's just convenient for me just to shave my head instead of going to a barbershop and having to listen to people talk breeze in my ear when I'm just trying to get my hair cut? No. What about steel toe cap boots? Dr. Martens. You know, all these things that maybe associated with it. The Union Jack. You know, it's silly to let one group, just because they like something, hijack it. You know, we let the Nazis do that with the swastika. Well, other cultures haven't. You know, still used in you know, parts of Indian culture and in Japan as a good thing, which I think is the better way to handle this situation. Okay, so the Proud Boys like wearing Fred Perry. Okay, and already they've described them as you know, their self-described Western chauvinist group. Apparently that is a neo-Nazi group in this day and age. It's when you call yourself, a tongue-in-cheek Western chauvinist group. That's just interesting. Anyway, the company has repeatedly distanced itself from the Proud Boys, describing them as counter to our beliefs and the people we work with. But the problem is bigger than Fred Perry alone. There are dozens of other brands today that are either intentionally selling clothes with far-right messaging. Who? Who is? Louis Vuitton? Or have been co-opted by the far-right because of the symbolic resonance of their logos. Who? Can you name someone? This isn't entirely new. The British brand Lonsdale became popular in German far-right scenes decades ago, for example, when the youth discovered that the half-zipped bomber jacket over a Lonsdale t-shirt displayed the letters NSDA, the first 4 letters of the German initials of the Nazi Party. Wow, I mean, it just shows what a bunch of twats they are, that they choose to wear Lonsdale because it says that. I mean, you know, people got to buy clothes, you know. Whether they're, you know, paedophiles buy clothes, you know. They say, well, we don't want paedophiles wearing our clothes. We don't really have much of a choice, do you? The past few years have seen a dramatic shift in the aesthetics of far-right extremism, as the far-right has all but abandoned the shaved heads and combat boots of racist skinheads in favour of a broader style that blends in with the mainstream. Or maybe it's because so many mainstream people are being labelled as far-right Nazis that that's why that's a thing. Did you ever think about that? No, because you write for The Guardian. Okay, that's what you do. The new aesthetic includes t-shirts and hoodies laced with coded far-right symbols sold by for-profit brands. For-profit brands? What is there? Oh, I like the non-for-profit brand. What? As well as the suits, jeans and haircuts popularised by the American alt-right. Which is what? We don't even know. Smartness of dress has long been a far-right smokescreen. Hugo Boss, after all, manufactured the Nazi Party's brown shirts and uniforms, using pristine tailoring to mark a stark departure from the combat fatigues and drab colours typically favoured by armies. You see, Hugo Boss actually made clothes for the Nazis, but then again, that was like 70 years ago, so it's like, I don't really know what your point is, you know? I mean, I think Hugo Boss are quite far away from their Nazi-supporting roots, don't you think? The Nazis wanted fashion to communicate military strength and aggression. The shaved heads, bomber jackets and combat boots that post-war neo-Nazis co-opted from British working-class youth in the 1980s aimed for the same aggressive impression, creating a uniform aesthetic that would come to dominate the far-right's youth scene for 3 decades. You can't blame observers then for being... Oh, you can't blame the observers for being surprised by the pressed khakis and white polo shorts worn by dozens of young men bearing flaming torches and chanting "Jews will not replace us" as they marched in Charlottesville in 2017. Charlottesville, that's another like Joe Cox situation, as in that's something that they bring up over and over and over and over again. Even though I think like most of these like far right marches that they've had are very low attendances. It's quite interesting because they can't make up their mind, because on the one hand they'll mock any sort of march they think is far right for the low turnout that it has and say, look how low turnout it is, yeah, look at you, yeah, with your low turnout. And on the other hand they'll say, oh, look at this terrifying amount of people that are in the far right. It's like, alright, is it just a very small subculture? Or is it as mass, or is it en masse as much as you think it is? Or as you say it is? Because you say it's one thing, then you say it's another thing. Now, can you make up your mind, please? But the clean-cut look wasn't coincidental. Far-right leaders knew all too well that the public would struggle to connect hate with a style of dress that looked more like the kid next door than the neo-Nazi of their imagination, or the neo-Nazis of your imagination, because you're saying they knew. Like, where are you getting this information from? Who have you spoken to? Is there a manifesto out there saying this is what you got to do? Like, where are you getting all this from? I think you are getting this from your imagination, saying, well, this is what I think, this is why they're wearing Fred Perry and shit, because this is what I think they probably want to do. Like, where are you getting this from? This is fascinating, you know? Where's all this coming from? Anyway, so in the days leading up to the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, a prominent neo-Nazi blogger instructed marchers to dress respectably, noting that their appearance was more important than their ideas in getting people to listen. Well, you gain it from that. The Unite the Right rally that Proud Boys didn't attend because of its alt-right, as far as I'm pretty sure I'm correct about this, as far as they were concerned about the presence of alt-right neo-Nazis, therefore they didn't attend it, and it had a very low attendance. Even did it even go ahead? That was like just a real nothingness situation right there. Like, great, well done. So the transformation in aesthetics and style is part of deliberate top-down tactic, but because some real niche neo-Nazi bloggers had dressed well, you think this is a widespread thing amongst far-right groups and the groups that you think are far-right. Yeah, top-down tactic part of the far-right appear more mainstream in order to make the public more receptive to their ideas. The shift normalizes and disrupts the public's ideas about what extremists look like and make it harder to interpret and recognize the far-right's ideas as extreme. No, because I don't think, look, it's like with Islamic extremism. Every person that was recruiting, people to join ISIS or Al-Qaeda or influencing people to carry out bombings and so forth, not all of them looked like Abu Hamza. Okay, he was just the most interesting looking one and definitely the scariest. He was very suitable, it suited the media quite a lot, saying, look at this lunatic pirate. That's the kind of person that likes this sort of thing, this lunatic pirate. I think you'll find that a lot of imams and intellectuals that were spouting hate on the behalf of Islam would have looked very respectable. Do you know what I mean? They're not all walking around in like that ISIS garb with the flag, dressed up with a fucking meat cleaver, with their face covered up and a picture of a bazooka on them, going, yeah, this is what we're into. Like, I don't think that's quite how it went down, is it? It would have been a lot easier for security services and the police to catch the right people. I would have thought if there was brazenly out there as, say, like a motorcycle gang that has their colours on the back of their jacket, or Bloods and Crips in LA. The strategy wouldn't have worked if it weren't so appealing to a younger generation of people open to the far right, but eager to shed the stigma of the skinhead look and blend into the mainstream. Having come of age in the social media era, young people are hyper-conscious about their own appearance and personal brand. Oh, see, you're just connecting all these dots now, and you're saying, well, this is what I think it could be. Can you just say this is your theory, please? Okay, you should have said, because often I'll come up with theories about stuff. I'll say, this isn't my theory, this is a theory. It is not factual. It's based on things I've seen, and therefore I've come up with a theory. This is a theory, isn't it? Mainstreaming the aesthetic not only helps soften the far-right's message to outsiders, from wearing Fred Perry. And it's the Proud Boys wearing Fred Perry. What are you talking about? But also changes the conception of outsiders and inside, enabling people to slip in and out of far-right modes in ways that would have been impossible in the past. What are you talking about? No one went to work and dressed as a far-right skinhead. What are you talking about? Today I'm going to change into far-right man. It's Monday. It's far-right day. Today's far-right youth can be mainstream in their appearance, but extreme in their ideas. Right, this is a radical change from the racist skinhead era where the far-right's uniform aesthetic made extreme ideologies views more transparent to teachers, employers, parents, and peers. Did it? Did every racist decide to adorn the same garb? What should companies do when they are co-opted by groups they find abhorrent? Well, they shouldn't do anything, because I tell you why, there's like plenty of fashion brands back in the day wouldn't have liked, say hip-hop artists adorning their stuff. And other brands as well, or stuff like, Hennessy Cognac to Versace. Well, Versace embraced it because I think he fancied Tupac, but as far as I think, wasn't that a thing? Don't quote me on that. It was something like that though. But as far as it goes, it's like there's many fashion brands that don't want to be associated with all kinds of things, but people take to it. So I don't think they have any sort of place to dictate who should be wearing their clothes, like some sort of elitism, especially when you're dictating who is far right, even though they're not. most of the time. You know, typical strategy for brands have included formally distancing themselves from violent or ideologically extreme groups, or trying to hire celebrity influencers to reclaim the brand. Such tactics have mixed success. Yeah, well, if you're going to label Fred Perry the #1 garment for neo-Nazis, you can find it very difficult for a celebrity to want to wear Fred Perry and reclaim the brand. Instead, companies can take a cue from Lonsdale's approach. After, I love the way this like the only example they got is Lonsdale. just like, just Lonsdale. It's like, you gotta feel for it, like, as if Lonsdale didn't have a bad enough rep as it was. You know, take Lonsdale approach and just mass market it to the poor. After this is just I would never see someone in Lonsdale and think, oh, he's a neo-Nazi. I just think, alright, if you'd saved up a bit longer, you could have got a better one. After Lonsdale was co-opted by German far-right youth, the company refused to deliver clothing to shops associated with the far-right scene. Yeah, I mean, but like that was then, whenever that was. Like, what about now? They could say all kinds of stuff in the media and people would believe it. So, no. Funded counter far-right programs and launched the pro-tolerance campaign, Lonsdale Loves All Colours. Oh my god, how cringe is that? Please. In turn, anti-racist supporters decided they should support Lonsdale and started wearing the brand. This effectively disrupted the significance of the logo, making it impossible to identify only with the far right. Well, no one, I don't think I could speak to one. I would canvass all areas of the country, the United Kingdom, and ask people their opinions on Lonsdale. I don't think I'd meet anyone who would have associated with the far right. Or Fred Perry, for that matter. Brand ambassadors and consumers can put pressures on companies to do more than issue public statements disavowing the values and actions of extremist groups who favour their products. Using the profits they earn from those groups to fund initiatives that counter hate is one place to start. Cynthia Miller-Idris is a professor of education sociology at the American University in Washington, and author of The Extreme Gone Mainstream. Okay, so she's a nonsense peddler. That's what we can decipher from that. She's a nonsense peddler. This is nonsense. Now you're advocating for for campaigners and activists to go after any company, any brand that they think has been endorsed by far-right groups. Now, what's going to happen here, like, when you start this kind of thing? Well, you got 4chan, you see. What do you think 4chaners are going to do? Any 4chaners watching? What are you going to do? Is there a brand out there you don't like? Primark. What do you think's going to happen when this shit starts? Do you know what I mean? What do you think someone like Richard Spencer's going to do? Saying, oh, you know, if there's a brand that really is, you could have had an issue with all kinds of brands. Like people, you know, banks. I was thinking about this yesterday, about banks and how I've always been pissed off by my banks I've had over the years. You know? And I think the best way would be to completely associate, I don't want to name the bank that's really pissed me off recently, but to associate them with a far-right group. You know, it could be easily done. 4chan could do it quite easily. You know, have their stocks and shares plummet. This is, you realise how stupid you're being and how dangerous this is to sort of talk about Fred Perry in that manner. In that light, you're talking about people's livelihoods here. How many people how many people are earning money from Fred Perry? You know, how many people have got stocks invested in Fred Perry? Maybe you've invested. Maybe you're looking to buy Fred Perry stock and crash the stocks. You know, what is this agenda for? This is ridiculous. No. Do you realise how dangerous this is? What you're doing? Because this is all such hearsay. You've sort of gone, well, there's this and there's this, and this is what I think they're thinking, this is what I think they want to do, and the Proud Boys, well, I think that this is like, just shut up, Cynthia. You double-barreled silly surname. Shh. Yeah, that's right. Shh. Had enough of this silly nonsense. I would advise anyone out there, I'd say, bring back the Lonsdale Nazi meme, because I never saw it. It was in an age before memeing was big. Like I think that would be just so hilarious. It's just untrue how funny that is. Lonsdale was was chosen by neo-Nazis in Germany. Please, can someone bring that back as a meme? Because, you know, it's Lonsdale anyway, so it doesn't really matter, does it? Like, you know, of all the brands, it might even do them some good.